Welcome to Kindred Voices, a podcast that provides information and inspiration to kinship families.
So today we are so excited to have a kinship caregiver on the show. So welcome to Kindred Voices.
Then B could have been returned to her. And that just was not satisfactory to us. That just was not going to happen.
And we are so grateful to have you here. And tell us a little bit about what's keeping you busy these days.
What keeps me really busy these days is my now 12-year-old granddaughter that moved in with me back in December of 2021.
Speaking of that, tell us a little bit about how did you start your kinship journey? Like, how did you start being a grandparent raising your granddaughter?
Well, my journey started with a phone call from a Lawrence Township police officer. He told me that a complaint had been lodged against my now ex-daughter-in-law because Brianna had called her half-sister and was crying and throwing up. She was hungry, she was scared, and she was totally incapable of getting a hold of her mother. Her mother would not answer her. So her half-sister notified her father, and he called the police department, in which they called me. So in the meantime, I was able to contact her father, Jerry, which is my son, and he lives in town since they broke up in 2018, and as I said, has since divorced. So we went to Clearfield, only to find 3 police officers there and an advocate from Clearfield's Child Services. We found out later that her mother had tested positive for methamphetamines and also for alcohol that night.
So what would you say has been the most challenging aspect of being a kinship caregiver for you?
Well, for us, there's been several. When B first came down, of course, she had PTSD, really bad. And she had, since we got custody, we were able to get a counselor right away for her. And that counselor has helped her learn to deal with her mother's abandonment. And she's also taught her how to cope with the adjustments and to understand what happened and why it happened. Another thing for me has been a major adjustment. I was retired for 6 years before she came. So with a child now in my home, here I am, a senior citizen at 69 years old, raising another child. But, it was okay because it needed to be done. She needs to know she's safe, she's secure, and she is with me, and she knows that. And it was an adjustment for her also to learn to live with an older person instead of one of her parents. She spends a lot of time with her dad, and she loves being with her dad. And but she does feel most secure here with me at this time yet.
So when you decided that you were going to take custody of her, did you have any doubts?
Not an ounce. The minute that Child Services showed up in my home, and I was a single parent. I raised my 2 kids by myself. I never had Child Services in my home. And the next day, Clearfield Child Services was sitting in my dining room. But no, there was not an ounce on my part, my son's part, my daughter, or my other grandson. We all said if she couldn't come here to live, one of them were going to take her.
What has been the most rewarding aspect of being a kinship caregiver to your granddaughter?
Okay, we've had several. B has a learning disability, and it was not addressed early in her life. And then, of course, COVID hit. And then the schools closed down. And then there was rotational schools level. So with us and with the Tyrone School District, and B has really, really worked hard. She was able to receive the Rising Star Award. Can you see that okay?
Yes, that's beautiful.
Oh,
my goodness, that's awesome.
Yep, it certainly was. And that was for last year, for 2022 to 2023.
Wow.
And she just, she's worked very hard. And another thing we have noticed, she is starting to show her love more. When she first came down, man, you couldn't touch her. You couldn't even tell her I love you without her turning around and walking away from you. And that, of course, is because of her PTSD and because of the abandonment. But I have noticed, she is letting me hug her. We play with each other. We tease each other. Just things that she was not able to do before. And just the other week, we were at a craft show, and she actually took my hand, which she had been doing more, but she took her aunt's hand, and we walked for about a block that way. And Mindy, she looked over Bee's head at me like, I said, go back. And she was very shocked. She was too, that she is actually starting to show more and more of her affection for us.
Okay, wonderful. I mean, it's wonderful to hear that she's blossoming like that. What would you have made being a kinship caregiver easier for you?
Some classes on helping the grandparent to readjust to a child moving in. I don't know if that's possible, but it might be helpful. But I am a little more fortunate than a lot of our people because she's older. Mm-hmm. So we can talk.
She said, would you be down to adopt this baby because nobody else can take in another child? The other option was her going into foster care like the one before her, and that just didn't make me comfortable, which is just a really interesting part of the whole story. But because of how the paperwork went, I forgot if it's unofficial or official, whichever one is not allowed. That's what I technically am.
The type of kinship care that you're providing, which is called informal, which means you're not licensed, that's actually the overwhelming majority of kinship care. Most people who are doing kinship care aren't licensed. So okay. You're not the exception. And our organization was specifically created to service you because you're the informal, unlicensed kinship caregivers are the ones who don't get a lot of help, right? Because they're not part of the system. So we're here for you. So we really want to hear your story because it's a story that's often not heard. So Chanel, tell us, how did you start your kinship journey? What facilitated that for you?
So around let's say November, I have a close friend of the family who was pregnant with her 5th child. Her previous 4 children are one is with a cousin, one is with my cousin and her family, and they're raising him, and the other 2 are with the grandmother, and then another one is with the foster family. If I'm able to open my home and my heart, then if that's what is meant for me and my destiny, then I'm like, let's do it. Let's roll with it. She was born on New Year's Eve. So from November to December, it was like, baby is coming. So it was a very fast process. But the birth mother ended up getting a little, cold feet essentially with that. And then we kind of just stepped back. And she's like, because of the mother, I don't want to say struggling, but she's experiencing in the space with substance abuse. So the baby could not leave the hospital with her, period. So in order for that to happen, again, like I said, we signed a safety plan for her to be in my care and to take care of her so we could actually leave the hospital. Navigating a lot of these different spaces to try to get some type of assistance or support in moving forward now with this new little human in my life. Like I said, it was a month. So I wasn't prepared as if I had like 9 months to prepare for a baby, So that has I would probably say definitely the most difficult part. The social worker who we worked with initially, she wasn't that supportive in the whole process. It was essentially like, okay, the paper signed, this is the deal. Now I'm about to kind of like peace out. And I basically really just kind of got bounced around to different numbers until I found Lisa at Kin Connector. And y'all, I'm about to cry because I absolutely love I love Lisa. Situation was I got denied for everything, food stamps, daycare voucher, because they said I made too much. Because again, they go by how much you make before taxes, before everything comes out. So according to that, I made too much to apply to receive anything. So I was telling Lisa my story and she's like, yeah, that sucks. Unfortunately, you are the common denominator, unfortunately, in these situations. And she reached out to the social worker, spoke with the social worker, and then she confirmed that through her, because it was, I guess you said, like an informal situation, this little trick up her sleeve where she told me that I could apply for a child-only TANF. They would go by the baby's income and not my income. And we got it. She, she sent emails on our behalf. She worked so hard for us to get that. And if it wasn't for that, then it's already tough. And I told her, it's tough. I'm not gonna lie, but we're gonna be abundant. We're gonna come through this 100%. I know that. It's just in this time of transition and everything being new, I just didn't know where to go. I didn't know what to do. And because we were approved for the child-only TANF, we were then allowed to get WIC. So that helped a lot, because WIC would have denied me. They actually denied me initially until they went into the system and saw that we were receiving the TANF. So because we received TANF, we just automatically get the WIC. And that helped so much because she's on a special formula that was costing me $50 a can. And that's basically like 2 to 3 cans a week. So that was tearing me up. So taking that off my plate is like a whoo, and again, I really credit a lot of that to Lisa working so hard again on my behalf.
Tell us, what has been the most rewarding aspect of being a kinship caregiver?
My baby is just, she came from heaven and she's the perfect gift, so all of the sacrifice that I go through, she teaches me so much. She's grown me so much. She is my ultimate reward in anything and every way.
What would have made being a kinship caregiver easier for you?
If I really knew about Kinship Connector from the beginning, like I said, I kind of just was bounced around and Googling and finding that I eventually just fell into Kinship Connector. So if something was just like, oh, hey, yeah, Kinship Connector, go straight to this. This is, so awareness, more of awareness of Kinship Connector and what you guys do or provide would have been amazing from the jump. It would have saved a lot of headache and frustrations.
Based on your experience, what is the one thing kinship caregivers should know?
You're not alone in this situation. You're not out there by yourself. There is so many parents and grandparents, and I never even paid any attention to it, to what happened to this family. But there are so many grandparents out there raising their grandchildren and are a lot older than I am. But the thing is, these children need to be taken in. They need to be loved. They need to be well tended to and cared for, and know that they're safe and know that they're worthy of love, so that maybe they can grow into a loving, caring, productive adult in hopes that they can stop this vicious cycle.
Present yourself, the babies, the children, young adults, however old, the child may be, is always worth it. When Spirit rewards those that does for the children.
Based on your experience, what is the one thing kinship caregivers should do? Advocate
as best as you can for yourself, for the child. for the situation. You know, I believe that because if more people came up and said, this is crazy that I can't get services, because why should my baby have to go into foster care and be a part of the system and carry around that stigma and that energy of being in that, for me to be able to receive resources, to be able to really move through with things with her? Why do I have to not be working, basically, and to be able to receive any type of benefits? It feels like it's this damned if you do, damned if you don't type of situation, and I just don't really think that's fair for people who want to stand up, want to do, want to help, want to be of service. And it's almost as if you are just it's like you suffer consequences for it, and that just doesn't, that really pushes people, I believe, will push people away from wanting to help and wanting to do more, because they feel like, oh, well, I'm gonna go broke trying to raise this child, or I can't, you know. And I know, unfortunately, that stops people from being able to move forward and help these babies. And unfortunately, now they're in the system, and that's a whole nother situation.
So the main thing is to go to an attorney, find out what your rights are, find out what the process will be. There are some programs that could help the person file the paperwork. We couldn't wait. We needed emergency custody of her so she could not go back to her mother.
What was your experience like with Pennsylvania King Connector?
It has been wonderful. When this all happened, I started looking for help. Maybe like a support group or something like that. And with researching, your website came up. And I looked at some of the things. So I believe, if I remember correctly, is I sent an email saying, you know, what are you guys all about? And someone got back to me, and then Alex got involved. And I know one of the programs you guys have is something I was able to use because I am a senior citizen. And I was able, under the guidelines, the income guidelines, I was able to get a program through Department of Aging that helps me pay for her expenses. It helps me pay for her school clothes. It paid for the bus trips. And I'll tell you, that has been a true blessing. The other thing has been the support group. Alex and his support group has just been fabulous.
I can't say it enough. Lisa is amazing. She's passionate. She cares about what she does. She cares about these babies. She cares about making a difference. She cares about ending this situation within the system that makes it so hard for people to try to, you know, be there and be of a support. And it's very rare that you find that in these type of agencies and organizations, because unfortunately people can get very burnt out, frustrated with how things are. So to find someone willing to go the extra yard, willing to go hard, and like, I'm not even technically one of her, like, on her caseload, but yet she's still like, no, I know I can do something. I know it is. And I appreciate that always and forever. That really means a lot to me.
I know Bee's situation was caught early, and only because she finally, I personally think, she hasn't admitted, but I personally think she just got fed up with it and got tired of dealing with everything. And she stood up for herself that night. And she knew her dad and I would be there, and we were there. And as I told her mother, you may be a victim, but she will be a survivor.
And that is an inspiration and to share with others that, you know, this is not the end of the story.
One thing that you can also do to help with that is, you know, be a voice with your legislators, because the legislators are the ones who can pass the laws that will allow kinship caregivers to get, you know, more assistance. So, you know, if you know who they are, like, be loud. Like, that is how a difference happens. Most of us, I was raised by my great-grandmother. Candy was raised by her grandmother. Another person in the organization was raised by his grandmother. So we have personal experience with this, which is why we really are, like I said, committed to helping the families, and, you know, kind of a calling for us.
Yes, Shay. Yes, very much. It shows that, and I appreciate that, again, because you don't feel that all the other calls I had with people, they're just over it. They don't want to listen to you. They rushing you off the phone, so it's comforting to feel that type of support when you're going through type of things from a total stranger, so I thank you guys for even having this space and having this organization and doing the work that you guys do. So thank you.